I'm here today to share something important with all of you that affects all of our lives, something that has been overlooked for decades. Our government is letting U.S. food companies get away with serving American citizens harmful ingredients that are banned or heavily regulated in other countries. Even worse, American food companies are selling the same exact products overseas without these chemicals, but choose to continue serving us the most toxic version here. It's un-American. One set of ingredients, thank you. One set of ingredients there and one set of ingredients here. Let me give you some examples. Thank you. You want to do my honor. Here we go. My Vanna White, everybody. This is McDonald's French fries. I would like to argue that probably nobody in this room has not had a McDonald's French fries, by the way. Nobody raised their hand during the staff meeting earlier today. In the US, there's 11 ingredients. In the UK, there's 3, and salt is optional. An ingredient called dimethylpolysiloxane is an ingredient preserved with formaldehyde, a neurotoxin, in the US version. This is used as a foaming agent so they don't have to replace the oil that often, making McDonald's more money here in the United States. But they don't do that across the pond. This is Skittles. Notice the long list of ingredient differences. 10 artificial dyes in the US version and titanium dioxide. This ingredient is banned in Europe because it can cause DNA damage. Artificial dyes are made from petroleum, and products containing these dyes require a warning label in Europe that states it may cause adverse effects on activity and detention in children. And they have been linked to cancer and disruptions in the immune system. This on the screen back here is Gatorade. In the US, they use red 40 and caramel color. In Germany, they don't. They use carrot and sweet potatoes to color their Gatorade. This is Doritos. The US version has 3 different artificial dyes and MSG. The UK version does not. And let's look at cereal. General Mills is definitely playing some tricks on us. They launched a new version of Trix just recently in Australia. It has no dyes. They even advertise that, when the US version still does. This is why I became a food activist. My name is Vani Hari, and I only want one thing. I want Americans to be treated the same way as citizens in other countries by our own American companies. My dad came to America in the 1960s. And when he went back to India to have an arranged marriage to my mom, they came back to the US to live for the rest of their lives on their honeymoon. The first thing my dad said to my mom when they got here is, if we're gonna live in America, we're gonna eat like Americans, and he introduced her to McDonald's. So that was the start of my mother relying on ultra-processed food to feed her children, like so many mothers do every single day. As a result, I was a child ridden with health issues, and after going through 2 surgeries on 9 prescription drugs, I hit rock bottom in my early 20s. I started to take a hard look into the food I was eating. I learned that over the last 60 years, almost all food additives were being created for one sole purpose: to improve the bottom line of the food industry and not improve our health. These chemicals were created to mimic real food, to make it easier and cheaper for food manufacturers to preserve their food, to make it last longer on the shelf, to help manufacturing, and sinister of all, to allow them to create products that are more addictive in nature. Once I decided to take back control of my health, I eliminated ultra-processed foods from my diet and started eating real food made without synthetic preservatives and pesticides, growth hormones, chemical additives. I went off every single prescription drug and realized a life I never thought was possible. I had been walking around like a zombie. And because I didn't want anybody else to feel this way. I ended up quitting my lifelong career as a corporate management consultant to investigate and write about food full-time. During my investigations, I found an alarming discovery. We use over 10,000 food additives here in the United States, and in Europe, there's only 400 approved. In 2013, I discovered that Kraft was producing their famous mac and cheese in other countries without artificial dyes. They used yellow 5 and yellow 6 here. I was so outraged by this unethical practice that I decided to do something about it. I launched a petition asking Kraft to remove artificial dyes from their products here in the United States. And after 400,000 signatures and a trip to their headquarters, Kraft finally announced they would make the change. I also discovered Subway was selling sandwiches with the chemical called azodicarbonamide in their bread in other countries. This is the same chemical they use in yoga mats and shoe rubber. You know when you turn a yoga mat sideways and you see the evenly dispersed air bubbles? Well, they wanted to do the same thing in bread, so it would be the same exact product every time you went to a Subway. When the chemical is heated, studies show that it turns into a carcinogen. Not only is this ingredient banned in Europe and Australia, you get fined $450,000 if you caught using it in Singapore. If we were able to get, when this, what's really interesting is when this chemical is heated, studies show that it turns into a carcinogen. Not only is this ingredient banned, but we were able to get Subway to remove azodicarbonamide from their bread in the United States after another successful petition. And as a bonus, there was a ripple effect, and almost every bread manufacturer in America followed suit. For years, Starbucks didn't publish their ingredients for their coffee drinks. It was a mystery until I convinced a barista to show me the ingredients on the back of the bottles they were using to make menu items like their famous pumpkin spice lattes. I found out here in the United States, Starbucks was coloring their PSLs with caramel coloring level 4, an ingredient made from ammonia and linked to cancer, but using beta-carotene from carrots to color their drinks in the UK. After publishing an investigation and widespread media attention, Starbucks removed caramel coloring from all of their drinks in America and started publishing the ingredients for their entire menu. I want to make an important point here. Ordinary people who rallied for safer food, shared this information, and signed petitions were able to make these changes. We did this on our own. But isn't this something that the people in Washington, our elected politicians, should be doing? This game of whack-a-mole I've been playing with other concerned citizens for the last 10 years isn't enough to protect Americans from the unethical and hypocritical practices of these companies. We deserve the same safer ingredients other countries get. We cannot allow our own American companies to treat us this way anymore. We've had enough, it's unethical, and it needs to stop. Right now, we're at a critical moment where Americans are sicker than ever, and much of this is due to the alarming amount of harmful chemicals allowed in our food. Asking companies to remove artificial food dye would make an immediate impact. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. They already have the formulations, as I've shown you. Consumption of artificial food dyes has increased by 500% in the last 50 years, and children are the biggest consumers. Yes, those children. Perfect timing. 43% of products marketed towards children in the grocery store contain artificial dyes. Food companies have found in focus groups, children will eat more of their product with an artificial dye because it's more attractive and appealing. And the worst part, American food companies know the harms of these additives because they were forced to remove them overseas due to stricter regulations and to avoid warning labels that would hurt sales. This is one of the most hypocritical policies of food companies, and somebody needs to hold them accountable. The FDA is asleep at the wheel. They've admitted they're not capable of regulating all these chemicals in our food, and the food companies are using the lack of regulation to their advantage. But now, there's a significant wave of public awareness spreading about this corruption, and more people are asking for change. Many of the people in this room I see in the audience. Our grassroots movement is continuing, and I'm now asking for your support. Right now, we are petitioning Kellogg's because the government hasn't taken up this issue. Right over the border, this box of Fruit Loops is from Canada. It's colored naturally with watermelon, blueberry, and carrot juice. This is the US version. It contains 4 different artificial food dyes with the preservative BHT, which is an endocrine-disrupting chemical linked to cancer. In 2015, Kellogg's announced plans to remove dyes from their cereals by the end of 2018, but they never did. Instead, they kept producing new cereals for children with these dyes and preservatives, using the most popular toddler songs and movies to hook modern children of today, like Baby Shark cereal and Disney's Little Mermaid, targeting the most vulnerable children. We now have over 111,000 signatures on our petition to ask Kellogg's to finally serve Americans the same cereals they are serving other countries. I'm going to be delivering these petitions to Kellogg's headquarters in Battle Creek, Michigan next month on October 15th. Mark your calendar. With many of the health leaders in this room, and I'm inviting all concerned citizens to join me, including all the politicians here today and in Washington and both presidential candidates. Woo! This issue is nonpartisan and affects all of us. It's time for us to join together and end this corruption once and for all. Thank you very much.
Well, Bonnie, first of all, thank you for all your hard work on our behalf. And I was going to ask you a question, but you already asked it yourself. I mean, isn't that what the FDA should be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, when Michael Taylor was the deputy commissioner of the FDA, he admitted on NPR, we don't have the resources, we don't have the capabilities to actually regulate food chemicals because we don't have the staff. There's no one there. Like, we are under this assumption. And I think a lot of Americans are under this assumption that every single food additive and ingredient that you buy at the grocery store has been approved by some regulatory body. It hasn't. It's been approved by the food companies themselves. There's thousands of chemicals where the food company creates it, submits the safety data, and then the FDA rubber stamps it because they don't have any other option. So we're living in a world of the wild, wild west.
It wouldn't be that hard to compare the 10,000 ingredients to the what?
400.
400 in Europe, and start there, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So, well, apparently this is a 1-2 punch here, right?
Yep.